Therefore, my beloved, just as you have always obeyed me, not only in my presence, but much more now in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who is at work in you, enabling you both to will and to work for his good pleasure. This is the word of God, the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
In 1785, an 82-year-old John Wesley, the undisputed leader of the English Second Reformation, penned a sermon that he called On Working Out Our Own Salvation. This was a direct response to, well, a train of thought which had always existed in Christianity. Indeed, as Wesley would say in the sermon, it had existed even among the most learned of the pagans. This idea of somehow appeasing God, or the God, or a God, with your own abilities. Around, the middle of the 4th century, there was an Irish monk who became known in history as Pelagius. And Pelagius had a notion that, the church in its collective wisdom deemed a heresy. Now, keep in mind that some heresies are heresies because they lost the argument, not because they were wrong. But this particular heresy, every council, every attempt to clarify what Christians believed had said this was wrong. It was simply that people are good because we were created in the image of God. And because we were created in the image of God, therefore, we are like God. And because we are like God, we are untouched by either the consequence of sin or its origin. You can see where this might be a problem. However, it has now been, 1,700 years since Pelagius, and there are still people, both in and out of the church, who think that if I work just a little bit harder, I can earn God's favor. Or I can do whatever I want because God has already said I am good. What else is there to do? Well, Wesley said there's plenty. Let me explain to you. He said it in 18th century English, so it sounded a little classier than that. God. Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who is at work in you, enabling you both to will and to work for his good pleasure. John said that this idea of working out your own salvation, this is the point. The point being that God is the author of life. That he said, you're making it too hard. Let me simplify it for you. It is God of his good pleasure works in you both to will and to do. Do you hear the slight difference in that phrasing? The first makes it sound like you are a co-worker with God, and that only through your agency, your free will, can you achieve your own salvation. He said, if you read it that way, you're denying your need of God. Or you're saying, I am so far gone that no matter what I do, I can never find God's good grace again. He said, either one denies the power and the agency of God. This idea that God is an important thing for us to remember. That God didn't set up this world to trick you, or to prove how inconsequential you were, or to say to you, you know, I love you, but. Working out your own salvation, Wesley said, it is because of God that you have the ability. You have the ability to work with God. Not to earn your salvation, but because of your salvation. He said, God did, that the first part of this little 2 verses is to consider that God is. And because, well, the way he said it in the sermon was, God works, so you can. God works, so you must. You hear that for our 21st century world? Because God is. Because God works each day to bring creation into being. Because God saw in you something worthy of God's effort. Because of that willingness to work on your behalf, work in you, you then can work with God. Or because God has already done this, and because of your faith you have said, I accept that God is doing something in me. Because of that, you then should act as though salvation was true. It's a both and, not an either or. But you would say that it is really acting on our general rule. The first 2, do good. Do good. Put yourself in the place where goodness exists. Associate with people who hunger for justice. Get involved in those organizations and those groups that are trying to make the world better. He said the second is like follows that. And both come from Isaiah. The other is avoid evil. That means to make it your business not to be involved or connected or inspired by that which is not of God. It was hard in Wesley's time. It was hard in Isaiah's time. It's hard in our time. But it is what we are called to do. Because if you are a Christian, and you believe in God, and you accept the truth of that goodness for yourself, to not act on that goodness, to not act on that truth, denies what you have already affirmed. So either you don't really believe in God, and don't really believe that God's power can make a difference, or you haven't made it real for you. It is why we are here. Not because we have already achieved perfection or sanctification in the Wesleyan terms, but because we believe that God is capable not only of causing creation to be, but by the power and agency of God can help us to achieve something better for ourselves, for our neighbors, for this world. To work out your own salvation, Wesley said. And I love how he said it. He said, to work out your own salvation is a mistranslation. And remember that his mother, in her kitchen, taught him New Testament Greek. And so he went to the original sources and translated it. He said that what Paul was saying wasn't that you should work out your salvation, but that what you should be doing is to do it diligently, punctually, soberly, willingly. That what it meant to work out your salvation is, do you love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength? And if you do, because you do, everything you do will reflect it. That it's not just coming to church. It is prayer at home. It is Bible study. It is fasting. It is communion. It is making yourself present, truly and fully present in the presence of God. Not out of obligation, but with the realization that where else would I want to be but in the presence of God? You see, we've made religion so hard for people. We've made it so hard for ourselves because we think that it's all up to us. If I just pray harder, if I put a little bit more in the offering plate, if I serve on one more committee, that will make a difference. That will be the tipping point for the coming of the kingdom. It doesn't have to be that hard. But it has to be with intent. Not as an optional activity. Not as, it's something nice to do. But because God saw in you and in humanity and in creation something good, God put within you the ability to make that choice for yourself. And because you've made that choice, invites you into partnership in bringing about the kingdom of God. We are part of God's plan. And because we're part of God's plan, we have a part to play. Not just passively recipients of salvation or grace or mercy or love, but as willing and full participants in the reality of God's love. You want to work out your salvation? Act like you love your neighbor. You want to work out your salvation? Act like God is with you. You want to work out your salvation? When you sing in the choir, when you take the offering, when you serve cookies after the worship, do it because, well, do it because, as the prophet said, I would rather be a doorkeeper in the temple of my God than to live in the tents of the wicked. It is why we are here. It is because of God that we are here. And because of that, when we go out there, we will take the good news and be the good news to a world that struggles to find any goodness in this life. Be present with God this week as the good news is realized in your life. Amen.
Amen.
I invite you to stand.